Blessed Day Reflection by Abia listeners. My name is Abia Grant, and we are here to reflect on our life journey. We will be discussing topics related to self awareness, self improvement, and mental health. Also, the purpose of this safe space is for us to be free to discuss the ups and downs, celebrate the wins, and talk about ways to improve the lows. So, welcome to this podcast, and I hope you gain something from this time we share together. Hello, everyone. It is your girl, Abia Grant. Welcome back to another episode of Reflection by Abia. I hope that you're doing well and having a blessed and glorious day and week and month and year. So, I have part number two coming up with Justin Wilson as we continue our conversation about his book, Courageous Vulnerability. But before I go ahead and get started, let's go ahead and get the housekeeping rules out of the way. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, be sure to hit the follow and notification button so Spotify lets you know when I release a new episode. As well, leave me a comment on what you enjoy about the podcast and give me a 5-star rating. This is how you can support my podcast. Now, the disclaimer is I am not a licensed psychiatrist or therapist. My suggestions and my guests are based on general knowledge and life experiences. If you are considering making significant changes or dealing with personal issues, seek and talk to a licensed mental health professional. So, as I mentioned, we're back with part two of our conversation with Justin Wilson, author of Courageous Vulnerability. We continue to explore and learn how courage and vulnerability can create deeper connections in both personal healing. Whether you're navigating your own mental health journey or seeking ways to strengthen your relationships, this episode offers powerful insights and practical advice. Let's dive into the continuation of this meaningful conversation with Justin.
Because you leave that situation and it's like, everybody, oh man, you can find somebody else, but am I gonna not be good enough for that person?
Mm,
I think men, some men, I can't speak for all men, but some men battle with rejection and uh unfortunately, not so much nowadays, but black men, some black men don't have their fathers in their life. And as you grow up
mm-hmm,
and understand that, you experience abandonment. And
mm,
so now you are being abandoned again.
mm,
Um, and you battle with the abandonment, you battle with the insufficiency, I battled with a lot of uh these things. And
mm,
that's what that was like. You do have people trying to help you, but someone who has not had the experience
mm,
of being in a situation and being willing to persevere, being
mm,
willing to do your best to what's the word, um for better or for worse, to
mm,
adopt that mindset and say that's what it is, for better or for worse. And then worse comes and it's not for worse. It was like, man, am I really that trash of a person that a promise to God won't even hold? Make this person say, okay, I'm gonna try.
yeah.
And just to be honest, sometimes it just doesn't work. Maybe that person did try. Maybe that person just couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, like that was the feelings, is like, man, I have to be such a trash person that this is how I feel. Or
Mm,
this is the outcome of this situation. And yeah, that's where I felt completely valueless. I felt
mm,
completely exposed. Just like, all the you talk about, hey, yeah, man, this is a great marriage, everything. Because nobody puts on display that it's rough and everything like that. So you go from uh appearing in the public as not having problems to a divorce. It's like, oh, something happened,
Yeah.
and and when you're going through it and you see people that you know, your mind tells you that you can hear their thoughts, and none of what your mind is telling you that they're saying is positive. And
Yeah.
so it's just it's an experience, and some people have the ability to just block that part out and not
Feel.
uh feel it, which I
Hmm.
think I think in terms of psychiatry or psychology, not feeling is psychopathic. That's not a good thing. And so yeah, that's I didn't want to be a psychopath. I didn't want to become a sociopath. I wanted to be a human.
Yeah.
Not saying that people that experience that aren't human, because there are people that experience those feelings, but through prayer and therapy, they're able to work out how to live their lives in a productive way, even in that experience. But yeah, that's where I was. I felt completely void. Like I didn't feel like I was good enough for anything.
Hmm.
I can remember my heart being in that place, and even my children, who I am so grateful for, they don't even realize that in that situation, God used them to help me heal. And I used to look at them and I used to have to just walk away in the room and go and cry, get it out, and then go back and be dad again. But
Yeah.
them seeing value in me at a time where I could not see value in myself at all. Um, I just couldn't see value in myself. And so I didn't know like what that was a question to God. Like, what is the remedy for a broken heart? Um,
Hmm.
how do we fix this? I did not know. I had no
Hmm.
idea at all on how that would be fixed. But I thank God that He put people in my life and
Hmm.
allowed me the humility to to submit myself to the practice of therapy. Um,
Hmm.
because it allowed me the ability to process thoughts and process feelings. And so I could take so much more from the word. You read your Bible different. You hear messages that are
Hmm.
preached different. You hear you learn, you start to process life differently. Or I started to process life differently because now I got a better, I believe I have a better understanding of what's happening. And so yeah, that's what that was. It was the end was just like I'm at a place where I just did not know what to do. I did not know where to go. And
Hmm.
then again, we gotta remember the context. This is the pandemic. You can't go
Hmm.
into church. You can't go into you can't go anywhere. You can't go socialize. And even at this time, I wasn't in therapy at that time. Like, we were coming out of the pandemic when I kind of actually started getting into therapy. But at
Hmm.
that time, I didn't have anything. Like, I was watching YouTube videos of a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, I'm not sure which one, but I was watching and I would type uh well, I say his name, Jordan Peterson. I would say Jordan Peterson dealing with divorce into
Hmm.
YouTube, and it would be a 2.5 hour lecture, and I would watch every single minute of it. And then
Hmm.
YouTube would suggest something else, and I would watch that. And like during the pandemic, you had that time. You had time to
Yeah.
be able to just sit. And so I didn't know how much help that was at the time. Once I actually got into therapy and it started making sense, some of the phraseology and the words started to make sense of things. Uh, it was a, it became a great help. Like, even my partner, I was able to process the thoughts that she would tell me,
Mm-hmm.
better and draw more from them. Like in the beginning, it was just good to feel cared about, to feel good enough. But eventually, it got to the place where I could process the thoughts and reap the full benefits of being in that situation. And it was in those situations that I decided that, you know what, being vulnerable is scary, but I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to be afraid of it. I'm gonna be courageous. I'm gonna be courageously vulnerable.
Yeah. So the one thing I wanted to ask, and this may get a little personal, so it's like, do you feel like during your marriage that you were not vulnerable? Do you feel that there was parts of you that were blocked off, that maybe she was trying to open up, but you were resistant towards it? And now that you are, I guess, could say in a way, a new person or a more developed person, you know that that is needed in order to make the relationship better.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've absolutely come to the conclusion that yes, I was a product of the culture. So there were things I didn't know that I didn't know at that time. So yeah, I believe that there were times that I could have, like, when I reflect, I'm like, man, I could have been more open, and I could have been more understanding, and I could have listened better
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have and this is not an excuse, but I didn't have the tools to even know that I could have done and been those things. I didn't know. And so yeah, like, could my inability or lack of information to be present and more helpful at the time have been an issue? Absolutely. I would be surprised if it wasn't. I would be
Mm-hmm.
surprised if it wasn't. And that again, that's a part of me sharing the thoughts and poems and short stories, is to hopefully somebody will read them and read the questions and think about these things and be inspired to say, you know what, let me try
Yeah.
to get in front of this.
Yeah.
Uh Perhaps a marriage or relationship can be saved by understanding the value of vulnerability even with the partners, because I to me nowadays, uh we live in a world that is challenging. Like, we are challenging each other. You married
Yeah.
couples who have swore to do life together are battling for position amongst each other when we're supposed to be standing side by side and facing the world together. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely believe that there's more that I could have done. I believe, I feel like I know that there's more that I could have done to be better, to
Mm-hmm.
be a better partner.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the tools at the time. I was lacking. Didn't know I was lacking. Um,
Yeah.
but I definitely feel like I could have done more, a better partner.
Yeah. And then also understanding that, one of the things I speak about is that we can't change our past. Our past is our past and it's already happened. But, the reason why I bring that question up is like, again, when you say that when people read your book and even listen to this podcast, is that they're able to learn from you. So if like maybe again, they're going through something, maybe this will be insight, like as you mentioned before, to do things better before it gets to that point where there's no saving the situation.
Right.
And even so, I want to say that you may do all the right things and it still may not change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so and it's like you can't, even though I'm posing that question, the outcome could still be the outcome, no matter if you did everything the way that it should have been done. And it's not even just you, it's also the partner, the other partner in our relationship as well too, because it takes two. It takes not just one person to be vulnerable, it takes two to be vulnerable. It takes two to be
Hmm.
courageous. It takes two to want this to be what is, what you guys are doing together. And one of the key points that, you had spoke about is the society today. And we had talked about this prior when we had had our conversation before this episode, guys. Is that couples often fight each other, and they are getting divorces, and or the relationship is breaking up if they're not married, but maybe they've been together for a long period of time, because it's like you're fighting against the world, and then you're coming home and you're fighting against your marriage. You're fighting in your marriage. And the thing is, like, when you come home, this is supposed to be where, you let your hair down. You let the world is now outside the door, and you're supposed to be able to be, and your partner is supposed to be there for you to just be. You shouldn't be having to fight the world and then come home and fight your marriage. Like, I'm
Hmm.
tired. I'm tired of fighting. You see what I'm saying? And
Right.
then sometimes you fighting. Maybe it's not that person that's fighting against you, but you fighting with that person. I know for
Right.
me that has been something that I personally been working on, is, understanding that, you pick this partner, and, you're trying to make a successful relationship, and although you've gone through your past traumas, if you keep fighting this individual, you're going to possibly lose this person, because you're not letting go of the past. You're not letting go of things that's happened at work. You're not letting go of things that happen with friends and all the rest of this stuff. Or you think this person doesn't understand you, and maybe they don't, but at the end of the day, it's like you chose this person. So you sit them down and you say, hey, this is what's going on. And if truly you pick this partner to be with, they're going to sit down with you and work it out. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Because at the end of the day, they want to see you happy. They don't want to see you down in the dumps and having to struggle, with whatever. And no one should be coming home and being unhappy. I'm a big advocate of that. Like, I shouldn't have to come home and be like, damn, I want to go back outside because I don't feel like dealing with this person. Like,
Right.
like, I feel like when you get to that point, that is when you should be talking to a counselor. That's when you should be seeking, some type of resources that you guys can come together and figure out what needs to be figured out, for your own sanity, because the world is so hard in itself. So, yeah, you shouldn't be come home having to deal with the drama as well too. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I really wanted to ask you a question here. What do you want readers to understand when they're reading your poems or your short stories? Like, what do you want them to gather from your message? Because you have so many poems or short stories in your book and everything like that. And what I noticed, I mentioned to you before, is a lot of them are intertwined with each other. A lot of them overlap, and so forth. So, what do you want people to gather with your book? I guess you could say.
Right. I would say that I think we as a culture, like I remember growing up and my family all coming together and sitting in the living room and the adults having conversation face to face
Mm-hmm.
and sharing ideas and thoughts and learning from each other through those conversations, even if it's not intentional learning, even if you're just kind of subconsciously learning or you're hearing someone say something and then later on in life what they said applies to a situation, and without having heard that conversation
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have the tools to be able to do it. I think that we as a culture have lost that because now you can have a thought posted and walk away from it. And keyboard warriors will say things to you, and you can not listen to, you can not have your thoughts challenged, and people can invalidate thoughts that they really don't understand over the internet. So I think that if anything, I would love for people to come together and read and have discussions about the various topics in the book, because it's not just the book covers a variety of things. It covers love, it covers childhood trauma, it covers a lot of different things. As you know,
Mhm.
it goes in a lot of different directions. And what my attempt was to write about the experiences in my life that people can't say out loud.
Mhm.
And in the hopes that maybe as a group you can read the piece and discuss my pain,
Mhm.
or discuss what I said, even though it may be your story. That way,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people don't want to be vulnerable enough to say, you don't want to be vulnerable to say, oh yeah, I went through that and this is mine. But if it's somebody else, it's easier for people to talk about other people than it
Mhm.
is for them to talk about themselves. And because the
Mhm.
ultimate goal is, maybe in this you can see the benefit of a therapist. I think that
Hello, everyone. Let's take a quick break. Join me in the upcoming discussion with Regina Renee, visionary and founder of Mindful and Melanated, an empowering community dedicated to uplifting and supporting Black women. In the upcoming episode titled Sis, What Do You Want? The Importance of Living Authentically for Your Mental Health, Regina will share her insights on how Black women can advocate for their own well being and navigate their personal life with intention and purpose. Follow my Instagram and Facebook page, Reflection by Abia, for podcast details.
like Instagram, for example, there's a Instagram page called Black Men Heal. And I think that, stumbling across pages like Black Men Heal, people can see the benefit of therapy. And if my book can lead somebody to a page like Black Men Heal, it's the therapist Dr. Black. They're all over the internet. There are people all over the internet can help, that can be a massive help to people. And like, if you follow my page, you'll see me share these people's uh links so that you can get in contact with them. But to
Mm-hmm.
get to the place where you're able to express yourself so that you can go into therapy and maximize the full benefits of it, that would be the takeaway no matter what you're at. I want us to actually think about relationships, think about marriages, think not just be in love, but consider the fact that in the vows, every vow that I know, there's a part that talks about for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it- that tells you that there's going to be a worse. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to be willing to. I think we should think about those things. Like, as a man, I think about what my behavior, more so now than ever, because I'm way more informed. But I think about what how my behavior is going to affect my partner. I think about how my behavior is going to affect my children, my friends, people I engage with on a day-to-day basis, because I realize in my life experience, I'm dealing with something on a
Mm-hmm.
pretty consistent basis. There's something in my life happening that could cause my head to hang down. And if I'm dealing with that, then I assume someone else is dealing with that. So, you know what? Let me not add to this person's heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody reading the book, I would hope that the book will help them see that they're not the only ones going through it, that there are outlets. Like, the book is one, reading the book and having some introspection, and at the end of the day, even though not every poem or short story concludes on a happy note, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
anybody listening to this podcast, and I hope everyone is listening to this podcast, I hope this podcast do Joe Rogan level numbers. um I, I, I God be glorified for it, but I've made it through.
Yeah.
I don't wish any bad on my ex. I wish the best. And it took me years to be able to say that. Um, that's what I hope. I hope the book leads people to say, you know what, I want to do better. At like this person went through this, this person experienced this, and they made it through. So I'm gonna keep pushing. I hope that if there's somebody considering unaliving themselves, that they give it one more day. You know,
Yeah.
especially if you've never tried therapy, go look for a therapist. You can find a therapist on the internet. Like I say, you can go to Black Men Heal, you can go to Black Women Heal. Um, and those are just the two Instagram pages that I follow.
Mm.
That sometimes just their posts, not even calling and speaking to a therapist from the group, but just their post will help me get into a better space in life. Like I hope people can see the value. I hope people can see that irrespective of how dark life can get sometimes, ultimately there is light. At some point you have to run into to light, but in order to run into light, you have to run deeper into that darkness with the intention of finding the light.
Hmm.
Because you can get comfortable in darkness. You definitely can get comfortable there. You can get comfortable being a victim. And you are a victim. And I have to say this: being a victim is not a bad thing.
Mm.
It took some bad things to make you a victim, but it's not a bad thing. Staying a victim, I don't think we should do that. But being one is not a bad thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
if anybody reads the book, and I hope they do, I hope that they could read it, enjoy the conversational value of it. I think the book can be helpful, even if it's not your experience. Perhaps you can read it and see, you know what, I got a cousin that or a family member, my child that is showing these signs. Let me go sit down and have a conversation with them, and maybe they need help and just don't know how to say they need help. So yeah, I think that if anything, I just hope that people will have conversation. I hope the conversation will lead to a stronger prayer life, a stronger faith life, and definitely to a openness to go seek mental health counseling and get the help they need.
Hmm. Like, not to add to that, it's like when I was reading your book and everything, it's like I felt there was two major factors I felt in the book. The book was about self discovery, I feel personally. It could be about multiple things, but I felt
Hmm.
it was about self discovery and I felt that it was about forgiveness. And I felt like in each one of those is kind of like you are learning things about yourself, but then you are willing to go through the challenges in order to get, like you said, to the light, in order to get to the other side. And I feel like that is should be the pattern of life. It's like we're going to deal with challenges, we're going to have struggles, it's going to happen, and we have to want to we have to want better for ourselves and know that we can get through those struggles and we can get through those challenges. And that's when we use our community, we use all the tools that we mentioned before, the therapist, and you have a pastor, whatever it may be, whatever tools
Hmm.
that you have in your toolbox, that you're using those resources. And and there are there people understand, maybe they don't understand, to maybe, how can I say, you're not the only one.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, and it's not I'm not laughing. Please, guys, just think I'm not laughing because it's a joke. It's just that's how my personality is. It's just that you're not the only one that unfortunately has dealt with this situation. So there are people who have dealt with it, who have the guidance out there in order to get you in a better mindset. And then once you're in the better mindset, you can then start working on all the things going on in your life to, improve and so forth, because at the end of the day, I wish I could help everybody out there. I wish that, I could cure all the things that's out there, but unfortunately it's just not the way that it is.
Hmm.
But we have that power to work through all the things that is going on in our life, and I feel like the going back to the self-discovery part is understanding that these are situations that we need to work on and forgiving ourselves that, hey, this happened, and then get into a place where we start to work on them and heal. And that's what I felt like a lot of your stories were about. It was about the self-discovery, it's about forgiveness, and it was just about healing through that particular process. And it's nice to hear where you are now, because it was a struggle. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
hear it when you're talking to me, and it's probably points in maybe now, even though you've gone through the struggle, that you still think back and you're like, damn, like,
Yeah.
yo.
Yeah. You get
Yes,
triggered. You
you
definitely
know,
get triggered.
yeah, like, what the heck, man? And then also sometimes you're like, how did you even get through that? It's
Absolutely.
like, whoa, like, that was heavy. And then also, like, when just to add, when you get those moments where you're like, whoa, how did you even get through that, and you're now through it, pat yourself on the back. Pat yourself
Absolutely.
on the back for getting through it, because that is many. And then I'm gonna keep it real. I want to help everybody, but sometimes people don't get through it.
Yes.
Sometimes they get stuck in it. And I listen to a lot of horror stories of what happens to couples, and it's a lot of bad things that happens in this world when people do not get through what the challenges that's in their life. So pat yourself in the back for healing, not harming yourself, not harming other people. And I'm not just talking about emotional wise. I want to be clear.
Hmm.
We're talking about things can get very messed up.
Absolutely.
uh, so to be able to be on the other side, we have to acknowledge that. I think sometimes we don't acknowledge that, and it's like, okay, what's next? What's the next thing to check off our list that we need to work on? But it's taking a step back and saying, yo, I did that, I'm good. And then all that information that you have, like you're doing, with your book, is that you're sharing that, information with other people, so that they then have the knowledge to help themselves or help others and things. It's like,
Hmm.
don't keep the knowledge for yourself. Like, help other people do better. You know what I mean? Because
Absolutely.
that helps, with healing.
Right.
That.
Helping people is definitely a very healing practice.
Yeah,
That's why I don't understand why we as a community are. That's why I don't subscribe to the idea as a community we have to fight each other and have this crab in a bucket mentality. Helping
yeah,
someone do better will always have a net benefit to it.
yeah. 100%. I feel that. I'm adamant, about that, and I feel like that's the best way to move in life. To be honest with you, and unfortunately, not everybody does that. But I try. Anybody that I encounter or interact with, and I'm sure same for you, Justin, is that we just trying to help each other along, whatever,
Absolutely.
whatever way that we can and everything. So, guys, we're gonna go ahead and shortly be ending the episode. But Justin, is there any? Even though I asked you before about what was the reason for creating the short stories and everything like that, and what you want people to learn. But are there any lasting words that you want to share, or anything like that, with the community that you haven't mentioned before, or anything you just want to just hone in on, that you want to, like, just be like, okay, I want to drop that even more.
Um, get the help. Get the help from having conversations with you and having conversations with other people who have got the help. I never forget the first time I experienced dealing with a healed person,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, man, it was amazing to see somebody with the freedom to be happy and the
Yeah.
freedom to just to be okay with life in in the place that it was in that very moment, to be able to be present with self in that moment. And so I would say get the help. For the believers, the Bible believers, it is not against Bible to get the help.
Let's go ahead and take a quick break. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into Reflection by Abia. Feel free to check out the podcast Instagram page and my personal page, simply.abia, also on Instagram. The links will be available in the show notes, so let's get back to the podcast.
It is not a lack of faith to get the help. You can pray and go see a therapist. Um, in the Black community, especially to my brothers, it is not weak, irrespective of what we have been led to believe through culture. It is not weak to go sit down with a therapist and have to be able to work your way through life. While life is rough, I can say, using the very fact that we are on this podcast at this moment, there are people out there who are looking for somebody with your particular set of circumstances to help.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that I shared a post. I don't even remember exactly what the name of the group was, but I shared a post that I was looking for podcasts to come on to
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation like this. And then I forgot that I shared it. Like, I honestly forgot that I shared it. And then one day, because it was out there in the universe, Mrs. Grant saw it, responded. She was willing to help jump right in, and we started having conversations and developing a rapport with each other. So yeah, there's somebody willing to listen, there's somebody willing to help. And I can say this: the better you are as
Mm-hmm.
an individual, the better experiences you can provide to the individuals around you. And I imagine being in a community where we all are treating each other with dignity and respect, care and concern, love and appreciation, empathy, and how beneficial that type of community can be, where I don't have to look at a black man that I don't know and feel threatened, or feel like he's my enemy, or feel like, oh, he think he better than me. And I can say, hey man, how can I help you? And and be okay with saying, hey man, I need your help. I believe that is a very possible reality that can be attained if we do the work. And I just encourage everybody to do the work. If you never respond or anything like that, man, go out and have the conversations and do the work. And if you do want to respond, I'm sure you can go to Mrs. Grant's inbox and she'll tell you, hey, this is a good therapist. You can go to this website and perhaps find a good therapist if you hit me. Me and her both made it very clear we are not therapists. We are having conversations about the benefits of therapy, but I'm not a therapist, and she's made it clear she's not a therapist. But we're saying, in conjunction with a healthy prayer life, she and I both had conversations about the benefit of going to the gym and getting a good workout,
Yep.
uh, along with therapy. Man, I'm telling you, something so simple: 30 minutes a day, an hour a day. Uh, that soreness that everybody is running from the gym becomes your best friend.
Yep.
You don't feel good without the soreness, and
Mm-hmm.
and and it burns off. It'll burn off parts of your day that you didn't even know you needed burned off. So I'm just encouraging, if the gym, I highly recommend the gym, but if it's not your thing, maybe writing is your thing, maybe crafting is your thing, maybe sightseeing is your thing, but whatever it is that can help you have a therapeutic experience, I
Mm-hmm.
say do it. Life is more than going to work and arguing, fussing, fighting, being mad. It's so much more
Mm-hmm.
to life than that. Um, and we want better families. We talk about being a help to the black community and black people coming together and being better. And I believe it starts in the mind. The word
Yeah.
says, "As a man thinketh, so is he." So,
Mm.
yeah, that's, if I could leave anything of substance on record with people, that's what I would hope it is.
Yeah, no, 100%, because it's like we talk about it all the time. We want better for our homes and our families, but like, are you going to put the action to it, or are you just going to
Right.
talk about it? So, and and I appreciate you just even talking about you coming onto the podcast. I appreciate you speaking about that, because I remember I went to a group in the Brooklyn, and I was like, "How do you get guests on your podcast?" And people were like, "Oh, it's easy," and I'm like, "Well, what do you mean it's easy? Tell me how
Right.
you do it." And they was like,
Right.
"Well, we go on Facebook and we go in some groups and da 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 da." And I saw your post, and then I had contacted you, and I didn't even know like this type of platform existed on Facebook. But then, I have you coming on with a couple other guests coming on as well too. And but it's like we are now sharing all these resources and things like that to be able to help our community. Like it starts with us. Yes, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like we can only help us through us. So let's stop just talking about it and let's actually, do it. And I was like, I want to be able to help people. So I'm gonna get over the nerves. I'm going to reach out to people. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to be uncomfortable, because this is not, I don't do this in my everyday life, but I
Hmm.
want to help people. So get over the uncomfortability, reach out to people, get people on the podcast that want to share their experiences and help the community. And let's do this, because me sitting here not doing anything and it's just not, that's just not who I am. So I appreciate you just being open, and just even posting that right there, just you helped me. I don't
Hmm.
think you know that, but I'm not sure, but you helped me,
No, I didn't.
and no, yeah, you've helped me, and reading your book has helped. It's helped.
Um,
I even told my husband about it and everything like that, and he was even excited to, oh yeah, you having him on, and how did you guys meet? And I'm talking to him, and and yeah, it's helping. It's the information is spreading, and that is the point. You
yeah.
know. So yeah. So thank you just so much for just like I said, being vulnerable and putting your message out there and coming on and talking to me and talking to everybody who is listening and everything. So guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the episode here. Thank you so much for listening. We have come to the end of our conversation with Justin. I hope his words, encourage and healing, resonated with you and offer some new perspectives on how vulnerability can transform your life and just your relationships in general, and just how you navigate in the world. If you took something valuable from this conversation, I would enjoy you sharing this episode with others. Don't forget to subscribe to my podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And as well, I would appreciate hearing your feedback in the reviews. Stay blessed out there in those streets. Make sure that you treat others kindly out there in those streets. And God willing, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Reflection by Abia. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about today's episode and share the podcast with your friends and family. The link will be available in the show notes.